Hi, my name's Brad Hill. It's good to be with you guys again today. And today we're going to look at Philippians chapter 4, the last chapter in Philippians. And what we'll see here is how to find peace in the midst of any and every situation. And the key here really is prayer, but not just prayer alone by itself. It goes a little bit deeper than that. There's a posture of faith and humility in our hearts that we must take as well when we approach in prayer. Now let's get started, and we're going to start out in verse 4. Let's see how Paul breaks that down. In verse 4, it says, "Rejoice in the Lord always." Again, I will say rejoice. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. The first thing he points out here is rejoice in the Lord. He even says it twice, emphasizing the importance of delighting ourselves in the Lord, being honored and humbled at the fact that he wants us to pray to him in the first place. Then it's with a grateful and humble heart we approach God with prayer. Again, with thankfulness, as Paul says in verse 6, then following it with our request to God. And as we remain in that state of thankfulness and humility, the peace of God will guard our hearts and minds in whatever situation we find ourselves in, trying to steal that peace. As that situation in our life is trying to steal our peace, if we can remain in that thankfulness and humility, then the peace of God will guard our hearts, as Paul says here. But quick disclaimer, Paul's not necessarily saying that God is going to just magically remove us from the situation. It's quite the opposite. Paul is giving us a template to follow to grow in our contentment in all situations. Now, I would like to point out that a lot of times we look to these verses when we are in dire or tough situations. But if we practiced this attitude in our day-to-day lives, how much more peace would we have when these tough situations do get hard? Moreover, what an amazing display of Jesus' love and peace that would be to those around us, to see us living in the peace of God in all situations, good or bad. To expand on those thoughts a little bit more, let's take a look at verses 8 and 9. It says, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you." So what Paul is saying is to continue to dwell in all of these good things, all of the good things in our lives, all of the good things that are about God and who he is, and to remain in that state of thankfulness and worshipfulness of God. No matter what our situation that we find ourselves in, he says, if we practice these things, that the peace of God will be with us. Now let's read verses 11 and 13 and see how Paul wraps up this whole practice of being content. It says, "Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am in to be content. I know how to be brought low. I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me." Again, he says the same thing, but personalizes it this time, making his life the example. The key is to continually rejoice and meditate on God's goodness and approach him humbly with thanksgiving through prayer. And then God will grant us the peace and strength to face all things for his glory, not our comfort, not our own agendas or glory, but God's glory and his kingdom. He will give us the peace and the strength to face all things if we approach him with humility and thankfulness. So what about you guys? Maybe this is something that you've not really thought about practicing at the high points in your life? I know I'm working on that right now. Actually, that's where I've been the past couple of weeks, actually meditating on this and how I can have that posture of thankfulness and humility in my prayer life every single day, even when I'm in a good spot in life. Or maybe this is encouraging to you in a tough situation that you might be going through. I would encourage you either way to go back over and read these verses, and see how God would lead you in your next steps. Thanks, and I'll see you guys next time.